Good evening, everyone. Motion to return to open session.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Vicki, I know you sent me something. I'm trying to find it.
Pledge.
I know, but thank you. 9 years before Ohio became a state, our founding fathers gathered for the first meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Trustees. Although we do not know the exact date of that meeting, we do know that it occurred in March 1793. So as we begin Anderson's 225th year, I ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. We have a number of presentations and recognitions tonight, and we will start with Ms. Earhart.
Yes, good evening. Every 30 minutes, one child is abused or neglected in the state of Ohio. This is a frightening statistic for all of us. I know we have individuals here from Fire and Rescue, we have police officers, we have our state representative here, we have folks from the library, the Park District, and I'm sure many of you are involved in various community organizations. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to report child abuse or suspected child abuse or neglect when we see it. Hamilton County Job and Family Services has a list. They do have a program called Do Ask, Do Tell. They ask that anyone who suspects child abuse or neglect call 241-KIDS. Signs include unexplained burns, bites, bruises, black eyes, sudden changes in behavior, either extremely compliant or extremely aggressive, inappropriate adult or childlike behavior, someone who seems frightened to go home, would rather stay with a stranger than their parent or caregiver, someone who shrinks at the approach of an adult, is frequently absent from school, begs or steals for food or money, lacks needed medical care, dental care, or is extremely dirty, doesn't have appropriate clothing. It is critical that we are all the voice for these kids. It happens more often than it ever should. No child should ever be abused or neglected. It happens everywhere. And to help raise awareness, I have a resolution before the board and would ask for its consideration.
Thank you, Vicki.
I move to adopt a resolution designating April National Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Vicki.
you.
Next up, we have Catherine Torrin-Jones from the Anderson Township Public Library, who's here to talk about upcoming outreach programs and summer services and anything else you'd like to talk about.
All right. Approach you.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing me the time to address you this evening. And we'd like to thank you for all of your support of the Anderson Township Library Association and the sale that they had back in November. It was wonderful and successful. I think a lot of people enjoy it. Our next one coming up is June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and it'll be at Nagle Middle School. I'd like to address a little bit about the state of the library. As you know, our library is an important community asset. We have 40 branches plus the main library downtown and all across Hamilton County. Our library provides nearly 20,000 free programs each year for residents of all ages. And every year, thousands of children come to our libraries for homework help, reading programs. Adults also use our branches for meeting rooms, help in searching for jobs, computer use, training as well. Our library is one of the oldest and busiest in the country, with nearly 500,000 card holders. It's astonishing to me that 80% of households in Hamilton County have at least one member that is a library card holder. So it's really remarkable. As a result, in 2016, our circulation was second in the country, only behind New York Public. It's really awesome. So we also are a leader in loaning digital items as well, if you've ever downloaded an item from the library or used any of our digital materials. A couple of awards I'll point out to you. In 2013, we received the National Medal for Museum and Library Service. It is the top honor for museums and libraries, mostly going to museums, rarely on occasion to libraries, so we are really proud of that. And last year, we received the 5th straight year in a row a 5-star rating from Library Journal, which is a national publication, professional publication that rates libraries across the country. Our library is very fiscally responsible and works hard to meet community needs. Since the year 2000, our funding has been cut by 26% by the state of Ohio, the Public Library Fund. But during that same time, the last 17 years, the circulation of our materials has increased by 60%. We have not increased our budget in that entire time period. We have the lowest local funding of any major library system in the state. Our staff has done a comprehensive 18-month study of our facilities and community needs and determined that there's much to be done in all of our 40 branches to meet the needs of the community. We are requesting a levy on the ballot this year in May, on May 8th, when you go to the polls. It's a $1 million 10-year levy, less than $3 a month per average $100,000 home. Excuse me. It'll be issue number 3 on the ballot. We just found that today. So the levy is needed to keep our library strong. The current budget that we have for renovations and major maintenance is $2 million, and the results of that review, the study that we did, kind of highlight about $54 million in repairs that we're going to need to keep our facilities up to date. I'll point out to something that is kind of remarkable to me. We do have the 40 branches. 6 of those are currently not handicap accessible. So 6 of our neighborhoods, if you are handicapped or have a toddler in a stroller, you cannot access the building. So we're trying to improve all of that and make sure that all of our facilities are offering up-to-date buildings and places for the communities that they're in. So yeah, we'll continue to purchase books and other materials, CDs, DVDs, provide computers, internet access, Wi-Fi availability in all of our buildings, and also to provide programs like homework help, summer reading, which is coming up in June and July, and help for residents looking for jobs. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your support. You can register to vote at the library. The deadline to register to vote is April 9th, and the election day is May 8th this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
Next up from the Anderson Township Park District is our Executive Director, Ken Kushner. Board member Tom Turchiano is in the audience as well. Hello, Tom. You're welcome to come up too if you want. Hey, Ken, how you doing?
How y'all doing this evening?
Good.
Ken.
As Josh mentioned, I'm Ken Kushner. I work at the Anderson Park District and work with a bunch of great people there to make things happen for the residents of Anderson Township. I sent over the abridged edition of this, so I'm going to try to roll through it pretty quick for y'all and talk a little bit about what we did last year, even though we're 72 days into a very long year already with the flooding we've had. So, the Anderson Park District, the mission is we're dedicated to providing the Anderson Township residents with quality parks, facilities, and programs. That's what we do daily. That's what we try to keep happening all the time. So, a little update. We're 42 years into it now, since 1975. Last year, we got a Government Finance Officers Association Award, which we're very proud of for small government. switching into what we do for the people's activities, we put in the first 9 holes of the golf course up at Johnson, William McNeely Johnson Hills Park. So 9 more holes are soon to be there in the next 24 months. Johnson Hills Park, the roadway and parking lot are now in, so it makes it much more conducive for anybody who has mobility issues to get into the park. We also have put in a picnic grove area and planted many trees, and in the future, 20 years from now, they'll be rather large and people will be able to picnic in the shade. We were the best float in the parade last year. I'm sure we're going to put it on again this year, so we're going to make that happen. Somehow that's worked out for us a lot of years. Up at Julius, due to great donations, we have some new picnic pods, one of our most active parks. So new picnic pods, which are essentially a picnic table where 1 person or 8 people can sit and enjoy the afternoon, evening, or whatever time they're there, as long as it's during daylight hours. Family swing at Julius Park was put in through a donation. We got 2 more of those coming this year. We planted 456 trees in the parks last year, which seems to be happening all the time. It's a great thing, you know. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of loss due to the ash borer. 46 of those trees were donated by Bruce Berno, who's in the audience up at Johnson Hills. So thanks, Bruce, to your Trees and Gratitude program. Our shelters, popular amenity, 439 rentals last year, represents about 20,000 people. Kellogg Park Dog Field, we had 372 permits. That's 448 dogs. Kind of interesting. Lasting gifts, we had 16 trees adopted, so we have a lot more trees to adopt. So if there's people out there who want to adopt trees, we're always open for adoptions. Our Riverside Park all-weather fields. It's a workhorse field area. We had 690 reservations there, representing 2,400 hours of playing time. That takes up for 6 grass fields, those 2 field areas. So that's been great. So what happens on all these fields and in the parks? Over 10,000 soccer players last year, youth and adult. We had 2,500 baseball and softball players, 790 football players, 304 lacrosse players. That equates to 223 organizations or individuals who we help to get on fields. So a lot of action. Special events, or as we like to call them, special moments. The daddy-daughter dance is always a fun time. We had 960 people there. Our adult egg hunt, you have to pre-register for it now because it's so popular. We had 1,150 participants. Our youth hunt, we had 3,000 total participants down there, of which 584 were children. So, you know, the young ones always bring many adults. National volunteer events, we had 100 total volunteers at Great American Cleanup and Make a Difference Day, which they have made major differences over the years. The Mother-Son Superhero Dance, 227 participants. The Ugly Ducklings, a performance that was put on, 332 participants. Pancakes in the Park, I know Mr. Pappas was there last year, and he caught the cakes. So 288 participants. Farmer in the Delaware, we have to bring in 6 extra ponies because there's so many people who want to come to the event. We had 547 children there during this 2-hour event, so for a total of about 2,000 people who were there. Concerts in the parks, about 2,000 people at the 6 concerts. Movies in the parks, the 2 movies, we had about 1,000 people who came out on a nice sunny, or nice evening in the park to see the movies. So we have Grilled Cheese Wednesdays and Summer Shazam series, and it all adds up to a lot of people. And we had special event, outdoor adventure series, such as Beaks and Talons, disc golf, Stories and S'mores. Greater Anderson Days is always a large event that's put on by everybody in this room, the Foundation for the Park District, the Anderson Township Government, the Anderson Area Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, and without the sponsors, it's hard to do. So Beachmont Automotive Group and Mercy Health. So all those are there too. The Fair of the Arts, we had 48 artists, 1,200 patrons on a beautiful day last year. Trunk or Treat, 480 participants, or 430 participants, 1,500 total people. I know these are a lot of numbers, but, you know, we're actually more than numbers. It's just what, these are events that we basically have an event every day, and we attract lots of people. Except at our Halloween parade. Now, this was the first year for it, and it was Halloween, actually. It was 35 dogs and 70 total attendance, and some very interesting costumes. That program is going to grow, so we're looking forward to that this year. Santa's Workshop, another great program, 166 child participants. Our adult programming, people just keep coming out, signing up for the programs, yoga and Pilates, and cross-training circuits, and learn how to lawn bowl, and indoor pickleball group, which is noisy, raised bed gardening, and co-rec cornhole leagues, and winter windowsill gardening, and pickleball league down at Clear Creek, which now is not underwater, which is great. And, oh my, we just keep other things happening. We have our teens and tweens programs. We have youth programs. Lots of participants. Our camps this year were full last year. Our camps already are full, and it's only been online about a week. So, pretty crazy. So that's our summer day camps, our travel camps. You know, there's still a little wiggle room in some weeks, but they are filled up. Our summer mini camps, our horseback riding camps, all that stuff is coming up in the future. Chemistry camps and classes, little nature nuts programs that we put on at William Johnson Hills Park. Mini kicks programs, preschool open gyms. Just you know, it's when you put the whole year together, it's always interesting to see what was done. Our Princess Tea Party, other things like Little Sluggers, day camps, guitar classes, home alone classes. And then we go in our youth leagues, many participants there, with our youth basketball and volleyball leagues. And these are recreational leagues. We do also have some competitive leagues. And with all that, that all can't happen unless we have a great board that wants to make things happen, and we do. And Tom Terciano, our president, is in the audience this evening, as Mr. Girth mentioned. And it also takes a great staff, which I'm really proud of. So thank you for your time and all your efforts also to make the township better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, how was the flooding? What was the impact to you guys?
Oh my, well, we're still suffering through it. The dog park at Kellogg, we actually opened Kellogg Park up today. We've got that done. Riverside is, when I say done, they're serviceable. People can get in and use them. The dog park, you guys have all seen the pictures. It was that whole area, I mean, pretty minor in the scope of things when people can't get to work. Pretty major to clean up. And somebody asked me, you know, what's the difference between the 97 flood and the 2018 flood? Well, in 97, we didn't have all the things we have at Clear Creek recreationally, or at Kellogg. And it's changed the dynamic of how you have to attack things to clean them up. I was a little surprised to see the water at Riverside, how far it got up to the level of the river, because it looked to me it was about the same water height as it was in 97, according to where it got in the park in 97. So those are things we need to look at, the river levels and things. But so to go back to answering it, Kellogg Park's open. We're still working on Clear Creek. It was and still is a mess.
Do you need help?
The hardest part with the flood is we always love volunteers to help out with whatever we can get to. But the hardest part with the flood is actually letting the ground dry before you do anything to it. Because those fields down there are worth a lot of money if you had to redo them, or if you sold it by the yard as sod, as our neighbor does. And it's all timing, and there'll be a time when we can get on there and really make some things happen. I do know we're going to lay out about 217 bags of 50-pound bags of grass seed down at Clear Creek. So, an average house uses about 20 pounds. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes back. So, anyhow, well, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys obviously do a great job. You guys are
Yes, you
a
do.
huge asset to this community. I have been up to, if you haven't been to Johnson Park, it is really nice. The driveway and the parking and everything's great. And Bruce, thank you very much for the trees. I've seen them all. I've been up there and they look great, so thanks. All right, with that, speaking of street and trees and streets, the Street Tree Committee
Tree Committee,
presentation.
Tree Committee. We changed the name.
The Tree Committee.
The Tree Committee.
Street tree?
There's no street involved.
Oh, I said
Used to be
tree.
the street tree
Right.
committee, now we're the
Now we're the Tree Committee.
So.
It's
let's
on
see if
street.
this works. I'm Tim Kloppenberg, I'm a member of the committee. Bruce Burnow donated all the trees as our chair. And I'd like to start by saying how thrilled I am that we get to talk about trees in the same time that we do the libraries and the parks, which are both great assets of ours. My wife and I use the library a great deal. Our dog was in the dog parade. It was so much fun. So we think that it was great. I saw an interesting quote. What we're doing to the forest of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we're doing to ourselves and to one another. We can't here in Anderson affect the whole world, but what we can do is we can support the trees in our area, and the trees support us. They give us shade, they give us beauty, they help control erosion, they help control the temperature a little bit. A lot of us chose to live in Anderson at least partly because of the trees, because of the beauty of the area. So we've been fortunate. The National Arbor Day Foundation gives out a Tree City USA Award, and we've earned it 9 years in a row. It's a lot of work to do that, but, and I'm sure some of you in back can't see, we planted 200 trees this year. Now we're kind of double counting the 46 that Bruce donated, because we did do those planting. We gave away 700 seedlings to kids, second graders in the public schools, third graders in IHM. And the township does a great job bringing the kids here for a day and giving them a lot of civic instruction, and the kids are thrilled with those trees. I was talking with my neighbor Stan the other day. He pointed out a big tree. He said Annie brought that home when she was in second grade. Well, Annie is now married with 2 kids living away, but the tree is still here in Anderson. We're really getting a lot of benefit from this. We spend less than $3 per person on trees. We get a lot of benefit for that. Tree City also has what they call a growth award. Not only just do you keep getting the basic awards, but are you getting better? And so one of the things, several of our people on the committee who are much more knowledgeable than I am, led an interesting hike, and showed us lots of stuff. But also, we have been increasing the number of trees that we're planting, which is really encouraging to me. When I first got on the committee several years ago, I was discouraged because we were cutting down more trees than we were planting. That darn emerald ash borer killed a lot of beautiful big trees. Well, now we're planting a lot more. Again, maybe some of you in bed can't see this, but every year we offer to people who are in a neighborhood where they're getting their streets redone, their sidewalks redone, their curb redone. While we're there, we offer them a free tree. And some of the people choose these nice, big, beautiful oak trees that are going to, last for hundreds of years. Some of them choose to have a smaller, more ornamental tree. Every year, one of the fun parts about being on the committee is we look at the tree inventory, and we do have nearly 100 different species of trees up near streets in Anderson. Nearly 100. That's a wide variety. Unfortunately, we have too many of certain types. So we're always looking at the types that we don't have very many of that will do real well here. We're looking at ones that do best up on high spots and in low wet spots. And we're offering trees with some recommendations to people. And they choose quite a few different kinds. We had 8 different kinds adopted this year. I think this, well, you got to slide this.
Here we go.
This is a map of the township, and what you can see color-coded is the neighborhoods that we gave trees to each year. And the ones with circles around them are very small areas that we gave to last year. There were quite a few areas, but again, it's where other work is being done, trying to get some economies of scale while we're doing it. Thank you. Every year, the trustees plant a big tree at one of the places that's owned by the township, and we'll do it again this year. We just talked this week. We're going to plant a swamp white oak this year, a different kind of tree. I think it was an elm last year. And then on the left, you can see the picture of the little kids getting their instruction, and then we learned not to give the kids the tree right away. We give the trees in a bundle to the teachers, and when the bus gets back to the school, then the teachers pass out the trees, so they don't sword fight with them and stuff. But the kids are pretty excited about it, and then we have found that that's actually a cost-effective way over a long period of time to get quite a few trees. Because even though a lot of them don't survive, a few do. 700 trees a year at a buck a tree, that's a pretty good price. We also started a contest, 2 years ago, we call it the Great Tree Award. And we've got different categories: the shade winner, the evergreen, the ornamental tree, and the grove. I remember the first year we did this, one of the ladies came who had a beautiful big crabapple tree, and it was so beautiful and so big and such a delight to her that every year when it bloomed, she threw a neighborhood party and invited everybody over to celebrate her tree. Some people really love their trees, and that's what we want to promote. We haven't all been successful. There's a campaign called Taking Root, which is trying to plant 2 million trees by 2020 in Cincinnati, and they were offering some grants. We applied for the award. We didn't get it, but we will apply for other grants so we can extend the money that we have and plant more and more trees. I think it's a worthwhile thing. Everything that you try doesn't always work. And what are we going to do this year? A lot of the same things that we typically do. I'll just highlight a couple of them. A lot of us have had the opportunity to study with the state forester in what's called the Tree Commission Academy, and Sandra is going to be our baker's dozen. There'll be county staff and members of the committee. There'll be 13 of us who've been trained by the state forester, so we're really trying to understand this. But also, because it's the 225th anniversary, we want to celebrate by planting a grove of trees at the time that were that were prevalent here 225 years ago, that maybe you don't see so much these days. It would be great for the community, and it would be good for all of our understanding. So thank you for the continued support, and we'll continue to plant trees.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Great presentation. And speaking of trees, the Arbor Day Foundation, as Tim mentioned, has named Anderson Township a Tree City USA community for the 9th straight year, and Paul is here to elaborate on that.
So one of the requirements to maintain our Tree City USA status is to declare an Arbor Day celebration in April. So we have prepared a resolution for your consideration declaring April the 27th, 2018 as Arbor Day in Anderson Township.
I move to adopt a resolution declaring April 27, 2018 as Arbor Day here in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Before we move into public forum, I'm going to ask our state representative, Tom Brinkman, who's with us tonight, to come up and give us an update of what's going on in Columbus. Welcome back, Tom.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is the first time I've been here since, I want my glasses. One of the reasons why I don't have them. I need my glass person to fix my lenses. But he never seems to be there when I drive by. Anyway, Tom Brinkman, State Representative from 27th District. I'll face forward if that's okay. I typically came to the trustee meetings when my first go-around in General Assembly, but in my off time I got going to a boot camp up in Woodland Mound, and It's been done wonders for my physical well-being, and I encourage everyone else to get out there and enjoy the trees and the woods and everything else. Plus, you moved up the time, so. But let's, just to bring you up to date on what's going on in Columbus, I know what's very important to the township is House Bill 500, which is this year's omnibus township bill, which I know has some relief for the EMS runs and emergency costs that you're incurring down at the Belterra Park Casino, Racino. That bill is an omnibus bill, so there's a lot of stuff in it, and we're trying to weed through it and see what can pass and what can't. Sometimes when you get bills that have too much stuff in it, it can collapse of its own weight, and I've seen that happen. So there's a lot of competing interests, and we're trying to work on that. The three issues that we'll probably attack in the next 2 months before we take a break. One is we're trying to do a massive school reorganization, workforce development reorganization. When people ask me what's Ohio's biggest problem, I tell them that we have 400,000 non-burger flipping jobs available in Ohio, and we have 279,000 unemployed officially in the ranks. How to match up those people with those jobs is what we're aiming for, and it's tough. It's tough. Certainly the opiate crisis has something to do with people who can't pass drug tests and get jobs in heavy industry, but we also need training, proper training to get people into those jobs. I know the library's mentioned that they help, although I think she's left, but they do help with trying to find people with those jobs, but that's a big challenge. And we have a bill, House Bill 512, which is trying to address some of that, but it is a behemoth of a bill, and I don't know if it'll get all the way through. The second thing I want to mention is certainly the school shootings have had a big effect on what's going on in the State House and our issues with school safety. There is a bill, I believe it's 381, that deals with training of school resource officers. It passed out of the Education Committee, but it has now been referred back to the Finance Committee. Probably adds some money there for cameras, for metal detectors, or any resources that schools could use to help make sure that any threat could be addressed. I was on the phone today with Sycamore Schools because that's part of my district. They've had, this year alone, 5 very, very severe threats of students who were looking to bring firearms or explosives into their school. And they were able to stop it before they left their house or left wherever they had them. And they said it's out there. And they're monitoring on social media, and they're really trying to do the best they can. I wrote an article in the Enquirer about currently teachers and staff are permitted to bring concealed carry weapons to school to serve as a possible deterrence. There's about 1,300 people have gone through that training program in the state of Ohio, representing about 200 school districts. We know of approximately 40 school districts that have decided to do that, but it's all done in executive session, so we're not really sure who those are. And that's a good thing. Just like with concealed carry, you just don't know. It's very important that we give our schools the training and the resources to avert any type of disaster. One final comment on that is, I was thinking the other day, and maybe someone knows the answer, when was the last time a student died in a fire in a school? You know, thinking about new schools, they're laid out much wider, the cafeteria is usually way down on the other end, and I'm trying to get that statistic. But I do know that some of the culprits of these school shootings pull the fire alarm, and that causes students to go out. That certainly happened in Parkland, it happened in Arkansas, and so I don't know if increasing penalties is going to do anything to stop somebody from doing that, but we certainly need to address the hysteria that could be caused by a fire alarm that is legitimate and people afraid to go out because there might be a shooter there. Those are some issues we're trying to deal with, and you're also dealing with our youth who sometimes not all of them think straight at the right time when they should, all the Tide Pods and other thing else they might engage in. So, it's a tough issue. The final thing I wanted to mention is, everywhere I go, I was just at Marymount, and they were talking about how their budget was cut, and we had our library lady come up and talk about the budget cut. We had passed the first no-growth budget in Ohio in about 20 years. And people say, well, you're being stingy or what? But I want you to know, Ohio ranks 47th in taxes. We are the 47th in tax rate. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And we are trying to cut our taxes to become an attractive state for people to locate in. We have lost some very major companies because of our tax rate. And somebody says, well, give me an example. The Indiana tax rate when I left office in 2008 was 4%, across the board, one bracket. Ohio, right now, Indiana is 3.3. They've dropped their tax rates. We went down from 9 brackets to 7 brackets, which was good, and we've tried to get our brackets down, but we also have a lot of local taxes that are high. So while we all like the nice stuff, we have to remember that if we have all the nice stuff and we have to pay for them, folks who can make a choice might choose Indiana over Ohio, or Kentucky over Ohio, or any number of states. And so we need to get our tax and spending burden under control, or we won't have those nice stuff anymore. So that's just 3 things. I don't know if you have anything specific, or I enjoy our close working relationship, enjoy seeing everyone when I do out in the community, and you can always ask a question, but we're up there doing the best we can, competing with a lot of competing interests throughout the state of Ohio. But
Tom, we appreciate you coming. The boot camp, you look amazing, so thank you.
well, thank you.
I know you couldn't be here, but obviously, as House Bill 500 relates, we have enjoyed the use of TIF dollars in the township for a lot of things. And as you also know, our governor has, for various reasons, stripped back local government funds, and we've lost just over $2 million the last 7 years. So the idea that we can use some of those TIF dollars to maintain some of the improvements we have are very critical, as you know.
Right.
So hopefully that is recognized up at the state.
Right, I appreciate that. As I would think Ken and Vicki would recall, we were able to use those TIF dollars back when I got that changed back in the Strickland administration. Unfortunately, it went the other way, but being able to be flexible with those and let you use them is certainly a priority because of some of that, but also the unique situation you have with some of the facilities you have to provide emergency workers for that you do not get compensated for. And that's a big problem. And unfortunately, you're one of, 1,300 townships, and, 1,300, and there's not a lot of empathy, but so you have to use sharp elbows to try to get some of that stuff done.
As we do from time to time.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay.
If I may,
Sure.
just to tack on to that, and I know you know this, but for the audience, not only was it $2.165 million that we lost in local government funds since 2011, we lost an average of $1.7 million per year in the general fund, and we lost over $500,000 per year from tangible personal property and electric dereg. So the bottom line is the revenue to our general fund has been significantly decreased, and the use of the TIF dollars when this board, prior boards, made a decision as far as building things using TIF dollars and making those infrastructure improvements to bring businesses to the township and to provide improvements. The operating dollars were there, but those have been stripped away now. Right. And that is why we request, and I know you and I spoke, and I do appreciate your support on that portion of House Bill 500.
Right, right. And we'll continue to push away. We'll probably be up there for about 2 more months, but then if we can just get it moving a little bit out of the House, we will have lame duck after the election, and chances are good. If we can get it over to the Senate, it probably can come out by the end of the year. But then again, it'd be great to get it all done before fall, too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for coming.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Moving into public forum, any individuals that wish to address this board, please come up, state your name, your address, limit comments to 3 minutes, and you're welcome to come up.
Good evening. According to the sheet here, I'm supposed to give you my name and address for the record. John Davis, D-A-V-I-S, address 6920 Beachmont Avenue. Having been a resident here in Anderson Township for 16 years. First off, thank you for your time this evening. Much appreciated. I know you're busy. My comments address the raid that was made last week by the different law enforcement agencies on the 4 massage parlors. Fortunately, before the meeting began, I had a chance to talk to Lieutenant Guy, and now I understand that 90% of what I had to say
That's okay.
doesn't need to be said. I would, however, like to take this opportunity to publicly and formally thank the lieutenant for all his efforts. He's the first one who will share the fact that this was a collaborative effort and we all worked together. But in my book, he's the guy that lit the fuse. He got things rolling. And as one guy said to me the other day, he says, you know, it's nice to live in Anderson. Amen. Anyway, I really only have a couple things to say. First, I hope that Anderson Township government will move to structure a legal situation where these types of businesses never, ever again happen. Now, from my conversation with the lieutenant, this is already in action. The second thought that I would have is to please consider adding the good name of Anderson Township to the list of communities here in Ohio that are supporting State Representative Ann Gonzalez and her efforts to eliminate all this sort of thing in the state. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Davis. Anybody else? All right. With that, we'll move on to the fiscal officer report. Ken?
Thank you. We have financial reports as of the end of January. As you know, this meeting is fairly early in March, so we don't have the February information in yet. And it's hard to pick up a trend when we haven't been able to post all the revenues that we got from the real estate collection. So, but they do look like they're going to be on track after a couple months. The second thing is in July we adopted a temporary budget. It's called a tax budget. And since then we have been working with that tax budget. It became our budget as of January 1st, 2018. We're required by law to come up with a permanent budget by the end of March, which we have done. That budget was approximately $43.4 million that we came up with 8 months ago. We made some changes. We saw some things that we wanted to do. We felt like we had some extra TIF dollars to do those. So our new budget is now $45.8 million, and that includes extra money going to the school districts due to the TIF dollars and some other projects that we wanted to accomplish. Also, since then, we have incurred slight increases in our public services, public safety services, which upped it a few more $100,000. So I would tell you that last year we adopted a budget for $43.4 million, and our history has been that we tighten the strings on our budgets. We don't spend everything. We actually spent $39.5 million, so we were almost $4 million lower than what our budget started out last year. Not saying we can do the same this year, but we always come in somewhere around 5% under what we had budgeted for. So, and of that $45 million, I would tell you that there are $16.7 million in pass-through dollars. That's the money that we collect through the TIF program. It goes to our school district. Cincinnati School District is part of Anderson Township, and Forest Hill School District. So of that 45, 16.7 is paid back through transfers and things like that, which leaves us in operating services of $29 million. So, and that's what we give back to the community through our public safety, through our public works department, through our zoning, and through what we do for the community as far as the buildings, roads, the taking care of the major arteries and things like that, where we can help out with traffic signals and things like that. So I would need the approval of the board to pass the summary permanent summary budget for 2018.
I move to adopt the 2018 permanent summary budget as presented by Mr. Dietz and as follows.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Can I skip the minutes and go down to the resolution?
Sure.
Do
And
whatever
then
you
we'll come
want.
back to the minutes. Yeah. We updated our resolution for our depository, Fifth Third Bank, and we added some name changes because of the trustees, and we deleted a few people to make our depository agreement current. And in doing that, we also, we were asked to install a module with Fifth Third Bank so that we could do a transaction and it would occur immediately instead of sitting out there for a few days. The cost to us is very minimal. We're not sure what, but they told us, do we want to spend $30 to do a wire transfer, which would take place right now instead of waiting 3 or 4 days for it to happen. So that's part of this resolution that you see before you.
I move to adopt a resolution regarding depository accounts and treasury management agreement with Fifth Third Bank and approving and authorizing the online channel access agreement to be included within said treasury management agreement.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
And now we do have several minutes to be approved.
I move to approve the minutes of January 4th, 2018, January 18th, 2018, February 15th, 2018, and March 1st, 2018.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Margaret, anything in legal?
No. No.
Thank you. Paul, anything else? Lieutenant?
I have nothing on the agenda unless the board, it's been a busy week.
Has it?
Yeah.
But if the board has anything they'd like me to answer, I can please help.
All information can be found on social media, no doubt. So
It's got to be true.
thank you for everything you guys have done.
It was a good outcome, and again, I commend the citizens for working with us, and it actually couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Richard?
Good evening, and with the help of Mr. Severs, he's already pulled up a map for the first item before the board tonight. That is the request to install a new stop sign at the corner of Topaz Drive and Verdale. The interesting thing about this one is the complaints have been centered around one thing, and that is that the residents traveling on Verdale to make a left on the Topaz have cut the corner so much that they're taking their half out of the wrong side of the roadway. So installing a stop sign there will allow people to stop and be staged and force people to pull up a little further and take a proper left-hand turn. And the interesting thing on this is Topaz is a small street that runs between Rambling Hills and Verdale, and there is a stop sign at Rambling Hills and Topaz. For some reason, there was never one installed at Topaz and Verdale. So what you have before you is a chance to correct that issue and make it a safer road to travel for all.
I move to authorize the installation of one stop sign on Topaz Drive at the intersection of Burdale Drive in accordance with requirements set forth in the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Item B for the board acceptance of the Signal Hill subdivision. This one I would indicate would deserve a round of applause, a little bit of standing up, shouting, and whatever else we can do about this one. And also a lot of congratulations to Mr. Severs, who has worked on this particular subdivision since July of 2003.
Wow.
Is when it first came online, and we've been trying to get it dedicated since. There was a bad economy, a bankruptcy, a change of hands, a lot of engineering mistakes have led us to the point where the residents, the homeowners association in that subdivision have cooperated greatly with us. They have cleaned up the last bit of that obligation, and we are ready for full acceptance of that roadway.
I move to support Hamilton County Engineers' acceptance of the following private streets which lie in the Signal Hill subdivision as township roadways: Signal Hill Lane and Skytop Lane.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Hat off to you, Steve, and the others who
Got to be a record.
made that happen.
And then lastly, before the board, is the acceptance of the 2008 curb and sidewalk opening. This was a unique year. Normally, we gain a large advantage from being out to get bids early. We held to that structure. This is early to bid concrete work for the season. The unique situation we were in this year is the concrete contractors are completely overwhelmed in work. So much so that there is going to be probably a delayed start this season on when the concrete work would start and when it will end. The reality is there's only 3 contractors in town that do the type of work that we need them to do. And the city, for the last couple of years, the city of Cincinnati, saved up their money and put $20 and $30 million contracts on the street at one time, which sucked up the attention of these contractors, and it's hard to get them out. That said, we have a low bid from R.A. Miller, which is a very good contractor. We've used them in the past. They've done our last 2 concrete programs, and we are under the published bid amount. The engineer's estimate was $1.4 million. R.A. Miller came in at $1.342 million. And there's some change after that, and we have a contingency for 10%. And what you have before you is the authorization for me to get that started. I believe there's over 28 streets in total that will receive new curbing and had sidewalk repairs. So,
I move that this board hereby accepts the bid of $1,342,565 from R.A. Miller Construction Company Incorporated, deemed to be the most responsive and responsible bidder for the 2018 curb and sidewalk project in accordance with the bid plans and specifications, together with the 10% contingency for maximum appropriation of $1,476,822 in road and bridge funds. Further, this board hereby authorizes and directs the township administrator to give timely notice of award to the contractor and, after consultation with the law director, to enter into contract with R.A. Miller Construction Company Incorporated in accordance with the bid for the 2018 curb and sidewalk project.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
and I just want to publicly thank our contractors. We couldn't do it without them. They couldn't do it without us, so it is a mutual thing. However, working with us this year to get these streets on the books and to continue our giant effort. We have the second largest curb program in Hamilton County this year, only behind the city of Cincinnati. We are replacing over 47,000 feet of curb this year. So with that, that's how we were able to get on their books. That's how we were able to grab economy of scale, and that's how we were able to get the pricing that we got. So again, appreciate their efforts in helping us out. Thank you.
We appreciate yours. Sidewalks and curbs are another hot topic on social media. So if people would just come to this meeting, they would understand exactly what goes on. Thank you, Richard. Moving on, Fire and Rescue, Chief Ober.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. On the agenda tonight, our first line of business is oath of office for our two new firefighter paramedics. If I could have Rachel Macaluso come up and David Brown. As they're making their way to the front here, just a little bit about the process that it took to get them here. They both had career firefighter jobs in other communities and went through our entire process over a year ago. And when the need arose for us to replace personnel, we called them. They accepted our positions, and we put them through over approximately 200 hours of training. And they are certified in several fields. Firefighting and paramedic are two major fields. They have a lot of additional training, which will help in the near future. What we do in our recruit class of 200 hours is teach them a little bit about our community, a lot about what we do, and take them through our apparatus and equipment. They have been on the street since March 1st, and things are going real well. I'd like to thank Battalion Chief Miners out of the Training Division, and Sergeant Cunningham, who was in direct charge of the two individuals for 4 solid weeks, including a lot of scheduling, a lot of changes. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but we were going to have auto extrication training at the junkyards on Kellogg. That couldn't occur because you can't put the tools in the boat. So we worked through that. He dealt with that, and a lot of good things happening. Along with their instruction, we had 20 other fire department personnel come out and assist with training, and it makes a big difference. So now they're officially ready to go, and if I could have our fiscal officer come up, Ken Dietz, to swear them in. You're welcome.
If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me, I will administer the oath of office. I, state your name, do hereby swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, policies and procedures of the Board of Township Trustees of Anderson Township, and to ethically and faithfully discharge the duties of my office. Congratulations.
You don't want to shake my hand, trust me.
At this time, it's customary from the training division for a family member to hand them their badge. You can do so now, please.
Congratulations.
The next thing that I'd like to share with the board, as we've mentioned in the memo, and we do this every year, is, and to the public, is March 18th and through the 24th is Severe Weather Week. Basically, a little bit about it. We're going to remind everybody through social media and our different outlets the key points to emphasize, to make sure you have a household kit, make sure you're planned and prepared, know where a safe place is, and if you hear thunder, lightning is close enough to strike you. When you hear thunder, immediately move inside. I'm starting to see a lot of signs pop up at public places related to that, so I think that's a really good thing there. and stay in safe shelter for at least 30 minutes after hearing the last sounds of thunder. So again, get a kit, make a plan, be prepared, and we'll continue to educate on that. And if I could comment about severe weather, thank you, Vicki. That binder there is started on the 19th of February when the floods began. And a little bit about the floods: we had damage to the northern part of the township. As Ken Kushner mentioned from the Park District, we had over 60 summer cottages with at least 4 to 5 feet of water. We did do some rescues in Old Fort out of some structures down there. We had numerous businesses on the other river, the Ohio River, that we cover. A lot of people aren't aware we cover 12 miles of Little Miami and 6 miles of the Ohio. And the interesting thing that Ken Kushner was kind of alluding to is the problem we had with the Little Miami is that Saturday evening, I think it was the 25th, we had 4 inches of rain in a short period of time. So what he was talking about in 97, it took 61 feet to get the water over Round Bottom and through Riverside Park. This time it did it at an alarming rate and a little under 60 feet. So just some different challenges. And I'd like to thank everybody. There's a lot of people in our community, our EMA, Hamilton County EMA, our board, our administration. We have spent, including the Park District, we're pushing close to $650,000. We've recently met with Region 5 FEMA representative this week at EMA to work on cost recovery. There's no guarantee. It has to meet thresholds, but our township and Park District has put everything together, and they've asked for minimal information back from us. So again, they're getting it from all communities, and we'll keep the board apprised of that. Any questions on that? Enough about water, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Last thing I have on the agenda is the engine sale recommendation. The board approved us to replace a 2002 engine in last quarter of last year using TIF money. And as part of our vehicle committee plan that the fire rescue department along with all of our other divisions here at the township, we would like to put this up for auction or availability to either be sold to a political subdivision or put it up for auction. So you have a resolution in front of you if you would like to take care of that.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of surplus equipment pursuant to Section 505.10 of the revised code, providing for sale of surplus personal property via internet auction.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Township Administrator?
Yes. Ms. Parker has the first item, and Mr. Sievers will follow her with a couple more.
I believe you all have a memo before you that's requesting that, again, this year, we renew our property and casualty insurance coverage with the Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority, OTARMA. They've been very good to work with. We've been with them for well over 20 years. They continue to provide great services and good coverage, so I would recommend we stay with them once again this year.
I move to authorize the renewal of the township's property and casualty insurance coverage with Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority for the 2018-19 policy year.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item that we have before you is a item that comes before you several times now, unfortunately, as we're continuing to work through this. This is a resolution for your consideration to impose a temporary moratorium on micro wireless communication facilities in public right-of-ways. Unfortunately, we now have 4 of these in the community. We've been fortunate to work with the providers to locate these in areas where they have minimal impact on surrounding properties, but the resolution before you continues our temporary moratorium in residential areas. We continue to work with the county engineer's office and our state legislature to look for a long-term solution, but in the interim, this is our best effort to ensure that our neighborhoods are not the subject of these locations and these facilities.
I move to adopt a resolution imposing a temporary moratorium of 90 days upon the processing, approval, and issuance of any permits relating to the construction or installation of and/or modification to micro wireless telecommunications facilities within the rights-of-ways and residential areas of Anderson Township of Ohio.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item we have before your consideration is a follow-up to some discussions we've had over the last, actually, 6 to 9 months regarding recycling of soft recyclables, or textile recycling as we've referred to this. A number of communities in our region have introduced this, and we went through a request for proposal process over the last 2 months. We received one submittal. It's from a company that's currently operating in this region, and we would like to give this a shot. I think this is the next step in our continued efforts to introduce recycling options for our residents. This comes at no direct cost to the township. In fact, it will help add to our recycling figures, and we will receive a small amount per pound that's collected. So again, the proposal before you, the resolution, is to authorize the township administrator to execute that agreement, and our target date for this would be the 1st of June for rolling this out.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing Township Administrator to execute agreement with Great Lakes Recycling, Inc., DBA Simple Recycling, for a collection of soft recyclables in the township.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
The next item we have for the board's consideration is a motion which would reaffirm Steve Seaver's appointment to the Intermodal Coordinating Committee of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments. OKI, as it is known, is a board that consists of government, business, and civic institutions. The committee looks at regional transportation, environmental, and economic issues. In addition to reaffirming Mr. Seaver's appointment, we also ask that Tom Caruso be appointed as the alternate. Previously, Mr. Drury has served in that capacity.
I move to amend Resolution 12-05-17-14, reaffirming Steve Seaver's appointment as Anderson Township's representative on the Intermodal Coordinating Committee of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, and appointing Tom Caruso as alternate, both to be installed by the OKI president.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item, the Ohio Revised Code allows for a contribution to American Legion posts within each political subdivision. This board has historically provided a contribution to American Legion Post 318. Post 318 members visit each cemetery within the township on Memorial Day to honor those who have fallen soldiers who are buried at those cemeteries. The Legion's charity group also provides flags for our Veterans Memorial here at Anderson Center, and they participate in the Memorial Day observance. So there is a motion before the board that which would authorize that contribution.
I move to authorize a Memorial Day contribution of $100 to American Legion Anderson Post 318 for the purpose of properly observing Memorial Day with the township as permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 307.66.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
We have one item arising from executive session discussion. Last summer, Chief Mark Ober announced his plans to retire on August 3rd. At the time of his retirement, Mark will have completed almost 42 years of service with the Anderson Township Fire and Rescue Department. He will also go down in history books for having served 16 years as Anderson's chief, making him the longest-serving chief of any in the fire department's 77-year history. As Mark's retirement draws near, you will hear more about his many accomplishments, but tonight I'm asking Mark to join me at this podium for another reason. And yes, I said 42, not 225. Yeah. Okay. Mark, Assistant Administrator Suzanne Parker, and Assistant Administrator Steve Severs and I have spent the last 6 months or more focused on succession planning. We've discussed our ideas with the board on several occasions, and tonight we're ready to formally recommend that the board appoint Assistant Chief Rick Martin as Anderson Township's next fire chief. Rick is a 33-year veteran of the Fire and Rescue Department. He has served as Assistant Chief since 2017, rising from the ranks as a firefighter paramedic, lieutenant and battalion chief, a position he has held for 17 years. He received a Commendation of Valor in 1995 from the Fire and Rescue Department and was named American Legion Post 318 Firefighter of the Year in 2003. Besides numerous certifications in the fire service, Rick also holds his JD from the Chase College of Law. Rick is well known throughout our community as in his current role, he oversees all fire prevention and life safety activities within the township. As second in command, he also plays a key role in managing the department's personnel. He is well respected by staff and his colleagues, and has demonstrated his ability to work collaboratively with other departments here at the township and our community and county partners. Mark, Suzanne, Steve, and I are pleased to make this recommendation and ask that the board consider the resolution before it at this time.
I move to adopt a resolution appointing C. Richard Martin II as Township Fire Chief.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
I thought you weren't contagious.
Oh, give it to him. I'll give it to you.
Wow.
And that
Congratulations,
is-
Rick.
Congratulations.
With that, our next regular monthly board meeting is in this room on April 19th at 6 o'clock. Unless we have anything else, I would move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming and staying.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.